Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Dailies, your morning program where we keep you updated with the happenings on the paper. Today being the 9th of September 2024. So do remember to drop your comments, your views, and any other story that is quite of interest to you. I am Selena Laishidasho. I'll be doing the program alongside Rachel Tazi. Good morning.
Morning, Selena.
How was weekend?
That's fine. How was yours?
Well, mine was a very busy one actually, but I'm glad I have new strength for the new week.
Yes.
All right. We just try to look at what's happening. I mean, each time we have an international day, we try to bring it to the spotlight, discuss it. And yesterday being the 8th was actually the World Literacy Day. And today we're having the International Day to Protect Education from Attack. So every 9th of September is being celebrated. And I love the fact that it's following up a week or a day rather after the Literacy Day. And we're looking at the fact that if we're going to look at it, our current day presently, education is really under attack. We can talk about insurgents in various parts of the country. So whether it's kidnapping, whether it's the Boko Haram here in Nigeria, regardless. I know that it's not just peculiar to Nigeria, it's a global issue, especially talking about those in Afghanistan that don't have the opportunity to go to school and many other war zone countries. But then let's narrow it down to our own country here in Nigeria, where we've seen that for some years right now, education actually has been under attack. I think we've discussed it whereby teachers do not have the opportunity to teach. I think we're talking about the need for more teachers, more classrooms. And then even though some of those states where we had, I mean, last week we were looking at the attack in UB. So you can imagine, I mean, today I was excited and happy. I saw students in their uniform for those who are just pre-primary, not pre-primary, let's say crèche and all of those, so excited with their new uniforms and all of that. But then imagine if we do not protect education, how can these young ones, have a very enabling environment for them to learn? Because we know for learning, you need a number of things that need to be put in place for you to learn. But we're seeing that, I think we've discussed over the years, Nigeria trying its best to meet the SGT goal, which is supposed to be in 2030 or so. So we have barely about 5 or 6 years to reach, and from the way things are looking, it doesn't look like we're about to meet that target soon. But I think that the government of the day needs to be more active, proactive regarding education, because we keep saying the fact that education is a bedrock. It's more like you putting a light on the path for the coming generation. Where the place is dark, of course, we'll keep living in darkness without being aware of what is happening. But I think it's a wake-up call for our leaders to do something regarding education in our country presently.
Selena, more than ever, I believe that education needs to be protected. We can look at it as a global problem because this is an international event. So it's not just the problems that are peculiar to Nigeria, but also the world entirely. And you will find out that education has been a soft spot for all manners of attack, be it terrorist attack, be it social, cultural, any kind of attack. Education has always been the soft target, the easiest in every community around the world. And I think it's important that we raise an awareness, and then we can bring it down to our own country and what is more specific and different for us. First of all is the physical protection of education, and that is the body, schools, students, classrooms, teachers, and all of that. And just recently we talked about education have faced the most attack. If there's any other sector or professionals that would want to complain and say, you know what, we will go on a strike, we will know if there's any that could threaten the government more, and everybody will listen to them and say the government haven't done well, is the education system in this country. It is lacking, it is behind, it is not protected. They're more vulnerable to all sorts, and because the people that are out for the government knows that, schools are easy target, they go after them. Most of the people in captivity, currently in captivity, be it the Chibok girls, be it they were all gotten from schools and all of that. And we've seen pocket of attacks even for universities, depending on their locations and secondary schools and all of that. So it tells the government that, you know what, you need to protect education physically. It's only a matter of time we would have people not going for fear, because as human beings we want to survive more than anything. If education feels like a threat to our life, people would let it go. And this brings us to the second point, or the second way direction in which the government should protect education, is making sure that people see the value for it in the first place. Because we do have this slogan, whose school help, is because we are in an environment where you see that you go to school and you have nothing to show for it. It means that we are not protecting education enough for people to see the value. And that is why we would have dropouts, rather going into fraudulent activities, becoming criminals and all of that, because you find out that the first class graduate is selling crayfish in the market, and somebody, a tout somewhere, is running
cashing out.
Exactly, selling. So these are the ways I believe that the Nigerian government have to protect education. Apart from the physical protection, you have to protect its value, so that we will not have a generation coming out and seeing no importance of education, because there is no technology, there's no advanced economy or government or system, technologically, politically, socially, in every way, scientifically, that is not having a bedrock of education, as you keep saying it. So if we want to grow as the country, we cannot discard education whatsoever. But we are growing slowly, where people are not seeing the value for education, because we've joked about even our exam system and how the government keeps bringing in things that do not matter when it comes to education. We have advanced countries where people are 23 and they are doctors, they are surgeons, and you are here saying that an 18-year-old cannot go to the university or cannot write SSC and all of that until you're 18 if you're below that. And you realize that the doctor who is 23 in another country probably went to school at the age of 16 or 17. And they're out, because medicine everywhere is not a short period of time. So for you to have a practicing doctor at that age, you know, went to school very early. So we have a government that keep diverting, beating around the bush, rather than facing issues as it is. Now, this is one way that the government needs to protect education, because in the end, we'll just wake up to a system that does not believe in education. And it only means one thing for us, that is doomed, because we'll remain backward. We cannot grow without education. So I just hope that Nigerian government looks at protecting education physically and also value-wise.
Well, we'll just keep our fingers on them. We'll just keep doing our own, our own side of the job by reminding the government, because we need to know that education is not just a basic human right. It's a necessity for sustainable growth and every other thing we need it. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed regarding that. Well, let's go straight into the paper review, and we'll love to start with the Daily News Hub newspaper.
The big story on the paper, Aso Rock infighting. Tinubu's ex-spokesman, Ajiru Ngelale's many besetting sins. The writer says how he lost out despite closeness to President, his son Sheyi, Chief of Staff, and Gbajabiamila, alleged to have considered himself untouchable, maltreated older presidential aides. After getting sack letter, Ngelale begged for soft landing to resign. This is a statement from the presidency source. And then we also have a statement from an analyst saying an affliction Tinubu finally got rid of. Still on the paper, 10% VAT increase, Tinubu burdens Nigerians while he lives in opulence, a statement from Atiku. We have a tragedy here, 45 persons, 50 cows roasted alive in Niger Road accident inferno, victims given mass burial. I'll win 2027 presidential election, PDP dead, Konkoso boost. Oshomole's outburst, we're not barring Obaseki's wife comforts childless women. We're investigating Pastor Jeremiah's miracle water soap. A statement from NAFDAC warns Nigerians against patronizing such unregistered products. How we stop man, boy 18 from suicide attempt on Third Mainland Bridge. Under 20 women walk up, Falconets cruise past Venezuela, make last 16. Full medal table, Nigeria concludes Paralympics Games with 7 medals. Still on the paper, Sept to Tinubu, reverse petrol price hike, probe NNPC or risks legal action. The last story on the paper, son arrested over mother's death in Delta. And that's all the news on Daily News Hub newspaper.
On the Metrics newspaper, $4 million debt, Professor Akiyemi won Nigeria over Chinese deals. More data found in the paper. And we have Oluwafemi breaks world records, scores gold at the parametrics. Data found on page 22, and for quite a while now, these are the people who have been bringing medals into the country. So you can do well to read more detail of what happened during the sports on page 22. As well, we have Senate postpones public hearing for NNPC, Dangote and others. The writer for the industry says new legal requirements needs to be introduced to enhance due diligence and investigation hearings. NAFDAC seal factory selling unregistered miracle water. Atiku condemns federal government VAT hike plan, says it will worsen the cost of living crisis. The big story, Umahia rebellion. Peter Obi and Oti conflict with Abure's escalade. Obi rejects media team, appoints Ibrahim Umar as the new spokesman. Party chief Tylon Obi, Governor Oti's fraction. Abure led NEC to meet, may prepare response for Obi and Oti. Abure led NEC to meet, prepare response for Obi and Oti. Data found on page 2. 30 confirmed death, 50 cattle burned to life in a petrol tanker explosion. Data found on page 19. Concerning the merger talks, Article 8, Labour Party and NPP disagree concerning that. And the PDP crisis, and we have Rabio Konkoso declares PDP dead. You can read detail in the paper. As well down, we have Sina Rambo, wife expects third child even in crisis. For those who are interested, do well to read that on page 21. We have a picture story here. From the left, we have the FCT minister, Mr. Yesom Wike, signing a memorandum of understanding with the president of CCECC, Mr. Chen, and Dr. Mohammed Dan and Hassan in Beijing on Saturday to light up Abuja. You can do well to grab the paper and read more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On the Abuja Inquirer, Nigerians not enjoying benefits of increased allocation to states, a survey. You can start with the details on the front page. The big story on the paper, fuel hike, FCT residents groan. Parents mold school change for their wards, more car owners turn to Kabu Kabu. Nigerians to pay more as federal government molds VAT hike. Atiku warns against increment. And that's all the news on the Abuja Inquirer.
On Vanguard newspaper, the big story, petrol price hike, Nigerians at the breaking point, NLC and Atiku warning. With the writer here say NLC insists on reversal, urge citizens to revolt against the hike. VAT fuel price hike will worsen Nigerian cost of living crisis. This is coming from Atiku. Complete refineries by September or sue contractors, Falana tells the federal government. As Syrup calls for reversal of unlawful fuel price hike, data found in the paper. Concerning the VAT and CIT revenue raised 85% to 6.44 trillion naira, data found on page 9. Amid economic challenges, federal government opens new opportunities with LTC license to UTM FLNG. And then concerning Yaradwa's Matra, we have engaged in politics of integrity, Clark tells Tinubu. Coming from Niger State, 100 feared dead in tanker explosion in Niger State, 50 cows burned, data found on page 6. As well, still on the paper, concerning Japan, Canada student enrollment dropped to 45% after the new study visa cap. More detail found on page 9. NDLEA intercept consignment of cocaine, opium in sanitary parts and hair creams. You can find out on page 6. And we have a speech story, UTMF LNG gets construction license for floating the LNG. you can do well to grab the paper and read more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On the Daily Times newspaper, soldiers at liberty to resign, says army rejects claims of mass resignation. The big story on the paper, planned VAT increase, Tinubu's government will completely set Nigerians on fire. A statement from Atiku urges President, his advisors to redirect efforts towards crafting sustainable solution to systematic shocks afflicting the economy. Sept warns against capital market infractions to commence enforcement. NDLEA intercepts UK Eurobond cocaine opioids in Lagos. Rising prices shrink sales for SMEs manufacturers amid high inflation. Sept to Tinubu reverse fuel price hike immediately probe NNPCL. You start with the details on the front page. A tragedy, petrol tanker explodes in Niger, 48 persons roasted. And we have a picture, a section of Nigeria police officers during the cadet passing out parade at Nigeria Police Academy in Kano. This happened on Saturday, and that's all the news on the Daily Times newspaper.
On Daily Sun newspaper, the big story, sorrow tears as petrol tanker wreak havoc. Over 30 persons, 50 cars burned to death in Niger State, and then 3 died, many injured in Lagos accident. And I remember, Rachel, we've been talking over and over concerning how unsafe our roads are becoming on a daily basis. And I've had many states that have taken it upon themselves to give time where certain tankers should ply the roads, so we can actually reduce the number of casualties on the road. So I'm just imagining, just imagine if this tanker was plying the road maybe around 9 p.m., 10 p.m., where we know that the road was cleared, and then hardly will you see smaller cars. We wouldn't have had the number of people dying up to this. Imagine over 30 persons dying. Of course, there were smaller cars, there were pedestrians, people walking. So definitely as a result of the explosion, we'll have that casualty. Remember what happened in Plateau State around the Podo roundabout, where we had this tanker that exploded. And then not only did it like destroy, but then it had to even cause havoc to almost part of the veterinary institution that was there, then the clinic that was there, and then thank God there were not so many casualties and all of that. And then we saw even Cariba that was close by also got affected. So you could imagine the building, and then that will give you a picture of what actually happened here yesterday. And it breaks my heart because we're looking at persons as well as animals that that died as a result of that. So I'm looking forward to making our roads more safe. This is where we've been calling on the Federal Road Safety. We know they're doing their best, but we need a more proactive measure. What needs to be put in place? Sometimes it's either these tanker drivers, maybe the tank was leaking, or the driver was asleep. Something must have gone wrong somewhere for this tanker to have exploded eventually. So it breaks my heart because we've been seeing this over and over and over and over. And I'm hoping that we make our roads safe. I'm hoping that we have a measure that can be put in place so that we reduce the number of casualties, and then something more better coming from our security as well as even our road safety, so that we can see how we can join hands together to avoid all of these, sad events from occurring over and over again.
So I will keep saying that there's no problem that we face currently in this country that the government doesn't know the way out. If a normal individual like you and I, Sele, are sitting down here and profiling solutions and way after, talk more of a government that have resources, intelligence, information, everything. They have an upper hand compared to most people and all of that. So we can't sit down and think that the government don't know what to do to reduce the casualties. Are we going to be having road accidents? Yes, but what is the aim? Is reducing the casualties. The government trying to tell me that they cannot come up with a solution to this kind of problem. Having over 30 people, this is the paper recording the lowest. We have some papers saying 45, 50, and thereabout. So yes, if you see the numbers fluctuating like that, then you know it's a great number of people, and some cannot be accounted for because they were roasted. So it's going to be, there's going to be more and more check of that area until you can account for the heads, the bodies, all of that is not a sight to imagine, and all of that. So we can say for sure the numbers are not even accurate, yes, yet at the moment. but still yet there is a way, there is a solution. We've mentioned one concerning movement on the road. What time are these tankers flying? You're moving a highly inflammable
Content.
and vehicle, yes, and content. It means that for whatsoever reason, you're not even supposed to be plying the road when it's very hot. So that we know how the tar gets very hot sometimes. You can literally see it burning and steaming. Everything can spark or start a fire. There are activities going on the street. People are, you don't even know how it happens. We have roadside sellers and they are using fire, they are cooking. We have people that might be smoking on the road and all of that. At that period of time, you are not in control of the activities. When you go to a fuel station, you are in control of the activities. But on a free road, nobody's in control of the activities of people. You never can tell what can be, because a tanker can fall without exploding, but every time a tanker falls in this country, it always ends up in fire for some reason. So it means something somewhere is not just adding up. We're careless, we are not doing the right things and all of that. And I don't think that the government cannot come up with a solution that binds everybody. You don't have to wait for a state to bring out state laws. What about federal roads? Because this mostly happen on our federal roads, and we're talking about the federal road safety here. So when you bring out something, it's not just for the state, it's for the entire country. And whether we like it or not, these truck drivers have to adhere to it for the safety of people that will lose their life when they are supposed to be protected by all means. I think sometimes the government of Nigeria underrate this whole issue of protecting lives and property. We only look at Boko Haram menace and all of that. We look at banditry, we look at kidnapping. But when you fail to put road safety measures that protect lives, we have now over 40 to 50 people dying. This is almost the same number as the scores of people that bandits or terrorists have killed in a village. So what are we saying? Your lack of implementing certain things have done the same havoc of a terrorist attack in a community. So I think the government needs to look at it holistically, that when you are protecting lives, it's not just combating terrorism, but what are you putting in place to make sure that 40 to 50 people don't die on a highway?
Honestly, because I think we've said this over and over. Sometimes they just make us feel like broken records because we're repeating ourselves. But we won't get tired of letting the government know what they are supposed to do. And as well, let's make sure that the roads are pliable enough. We have roads that, when you say the potholes, some of that is deep as well. And then you wonder what really is the problem. So let's also fix our road, and then let's see what federal road safety will do concerning certain laws that will reduce the casualties. Still on Daily Sun newspaper, we have Clark Obi Ezehume pushes for Anyawawu immortalization. You can do well to read that on page 29. Hike in food and fuel electricity prices unbearable, APC chief tells Tinubu. Serap gives the federal government 48 hours to reverse unlawful petrol price hike. VAT increase will deepen economic woes. Atiku wants the federal government, urges diaspora Nigerians not to give up on the nation. PDP debt, says Kwankwaso, both he will win the 2027 presidential election. You are inconsequential party, replies. You can read detail of that on page 27. Can CNS urges the federal government to address issues raised by youth during the protest, saying millions of families living in abject poverty. More detail found on page 6. Dangote petrol pricing spark confusion and pushback, with the rider stakeholders seek transparency concerning that. Reconsider fuel price hike, reject economic team coming from the media group. Downside of the paper states 139.92 billion naira spent on external debt servicing in the first quarter raised fiscal sustainability concerns. Detail found on page 25. We have the pictures through where we can see the Labour Party 2023 presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, and the president of Rwanda, Paul, during a meeting in Kagila, Rwanda yesterday. And that's all on Daily Sun newspaper.
On Nigerian Tribune, the big story: increasing VAT to 10% will consume Nigerians. Statement from Atiku says taxes destroying businesses aggravating poverty. LP meets today may sanction members who attended Abia convention. APC NEC Ganduje intensifies lobby of governors and other blocs. Why North Central is divided. Still on the paper, Fayose absent at Ekiti PDP caretaker committee meets stakeholders. Osun ready for transition to agro-industrial state coming from Adeleke. NAFDAC begins probe of miracle water and miracle soap. NDLEA intercepts UK Eurobond cocaine opioids in female sanitary pads and hair cream. 48 killed, 50 cars burned as petrol tanker explodes in Niger. 1 killed, 17 injured in Lagos multi-vehicle accident. And then we have the scene of the Niger State petrol tanker explosion. Ex-VP Sambo Dambazo endorsed League of Northern Democrats. You can find details on page 23, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
Nigerian News Direct. GT Bank wins Euro Money Award for the best CSR in Nigeria. Coming from Governor Adeleke, he's saying how we are positioning Osun to be agro-industrial hub in the southwest. Abia government seek NCDMB expertise in developing industrial park. The big story at Atiku slams federal government over 10% VAT hike for price surge, warns of worsening economic downturn. Says policies will endanger livelihood, Nigerians already fragile economic stability. Reverse petrol price increase within 48 hours of face legal action, Sept tells Tinubu. Save Nigerians from crushing hardship, APC chief begs Tinubu. Nigerians has too many ministry, needs slimming down, coming from Tafa Balewa. You can read that on page 2. Legacy promo, UBA award 30 lucky customers in August drawn. As well, we have NDLEA sees cocaine, opium hidden in sanitary pad and hair cream, born for UK and Europe. Concerning miracle water, NAFDAC sealed the water factory. You can find out on page 22. And that's all on Nigerian News Direct. But before we continue, Richard, I'd love us to take a break just so that we can give you the opportunity to go through the papers again, show them, and then drop your comment in your views. When we come back, we will continue the paper review. Please stay tuned with us.
Hello viewers, my name is Amaka Ocheke. We anchor the program, The Living Room, right here on Equa TV International.
You are welcome to watch us every Monday.
The Living Room is a very interesting family program where we discuss everything you want to know about family.
Talk about our children's mental health.
Keep watching. Our program is always here, 5:30 every Monday. We want you to ask questions. We want you to phone in and drop topics that you want us to talk about, even on our media handle on Facebook. We're there. So keep watching, keep listening. The Living Room.
Welcome back. It's still the Dailies. We have been looking at a number of stories, especially the sad event that took place in Niger as well as in Lagos, where in Niger State we saw that over 13 persons were dead, as well as almost 50 cows during the tanker explosion. And then we also have one in Lagos where one person died, about 17 people were being injured. So it was a very sad one for the country. We have other stories on the paper. We'd love you to go through them, drop your comment and your views regarding any of the story. I still have Rachel Tanzania in the studio. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Sarah.
All right, let's continue with the paper review, looking at the leadership.
The first story on leadership, tanker explosion kills 48 persons, 50 cows in Niger. Pump Pride probe NNPCL, now Serap tells Tinubu. We have a fact check. What did Bill Gates say about Nigeria's economic situation? trending, China pushing investment in Nigeria. Naira devaluation, subsidy removal cripple manufacturers. Sambo, Dambozo, others join Northern Democrats. The big story on the paper, poverty, ignorance boosting organ trafficking in Nigeria, where we have a stats where we have 651 kidneys were illegally transplanted from Nigeria between 2015 and 2020. In 2020 alone, 129,681 organs were transplanted globally. Organs trade generates $840 million and $1.7 billion globally. In Nigeria, young girls sell their eggs for as little as 50,000 naira. Kidney payments range from a few $100s in developing countries to 20,000 to 30,000 US dollar in developed nations. You can find details of this story on page 4. Atiku warns against VAT increase. Sunset mother ablaze in Delta. NAFDAC investigates Pastor Jeremiah's miracle water and soap. Entertainment can solve Nigeria's security challenges. A statement from Inda Azaya. Details of his statement can be found on page 8, and that's all the news on Leadership newspaper.
On the Guardian newspaper, back to school. Parents groan as fees and fares spike by over 70% amid dropout concern. Now we have a very funny dialogue here between a father and a son. And here we're having the father saying, you will have to endure this term. Inflation is forcing us to cut back on expenses. And the innocent child is responding by saying, does cutting back include spending less time in school? You know, talking about how inflation is affecting almost everything. So you can do well to get the paper and read more detail regarding that. Atiku Harua flay Tinubu's plan to raise VAT warns of devastating consequences. Ajayi Edema jailed Adida Tiwa over appointment of 344 SAs amid economic hardship, when we are talking about cutting down the cost of governance. You can do a read detail of that on page 7. Reverse petrol pump price, Serap APC chief tells Tinubu. Tanker explosion claims 48 lives, 50 cattle in Niger. POS operators in season court ruling amid CAC threats. NAFDAC warns against miracle product of faith-based organization. Nigerians not enjoying benefit of more allocations to state. You can read detail of that. And that story here, NLC vows to tackle craft and fiscal indiscipline by politicians. That story can be found on page 3, and that's all on Guardian newspaper.
On New Telegraph newspaper, a first half report for 2024, 7 bank personal expenses rise by 90.2% to 374.73 billion naira. Consumers to pay more as value of imports drops to 99.6 billion naira, specifically for the importation of sugar. Still on the paper, economic sabotage, Senate postpones public hearing. Disquiet over reported extension of IGP's tenure. On 2027 presidency, Konkoso inconsequential in Nigeria's politics, a statement from PDP. Oluwafemi Ayo breaks powerlifting record and wins gold medal. The big story on the paper, stifling effects and others, anxiety heightens for BP, diabetes patient as drug prices rise 1,000%. Erectile dysfunction patients, pharmacists, chemists, others lament. Federal government EO not working in drugs prices reduction. On economic hardship, APC malls reduction in staff work days. Oboriwori to churches and schools install CCTVs or rigs jail term. Tinubu shouldn't allow opportunity to restructure Nigeria elude him. Statement from Okori. You can read more on page 10 and 11. VAT fuel price hike will worsen cost of living crisis. A statement from Atiku urges Nigerians in diaspora not to give up on nation, while Kano Edo postpones school resumption date indefinitely. NLC Serap demand immediate reversal of fuel pump price. 48 burned to death as fuel-laden tanker trailer collides. 50 cattle vehicles burned too. Accident devastating, says Governor Bago. And we have a study that links prenatal fish intake to lower autism risks. And you can find details on page 27, and that's all the news on New Telegraph newspaper.
And I hope our government will do something concerning the prices of drugs. As of last 2 weeks, I think it was 700%. And now it's even going as high as 1,000 naira percent, 1,000 naira percent, hike. So it's really, really very, very devastating for diabetic patients and many others. We look forward to seeing steps by the government to reduce this. Well, let's take a look at the Punch newspaper concerning strike. ASU government panel to meet on Wednesday, and that will depend whether they will go on the strike or not. Still on the Punch newspaper, group sued Lagos over $100 million Dangote land deal. 4 billion naira illegal arms, 10 charged with terrorism. You can find that on page 8. Obaseki Ego caused rift with Oshomode coming from the APC regarding Edo governorship polls. Group urges SO people to unify for Agidalu. You can find that on page 40. The big story, marketers plan petrol importers NNPCL Dangote talks drag. Petrol dealers to meet Dangote over pricing, uncertainty over NNPC September 15 PMS lifting. Ipman laments as NNPC delays supply at depots. Pump price nears 1,215 states, and we will recall that they promised that by weekend the petrols will be available. But we doubt that was the case. You can find details of that on page 2. We still have the picture story here. 48 passengers and 50 cows killed in Niger tanker fire. And I wonder why we still have people staying there even though the smoke is still there. What if they get burnt eventually? You can read details of that on page 4 and 5. Over 1,000 soldiers resigned from army in 4 years, the CISA report. As well, we see Eurobound cocaine consignment intercepted in sanitary parts. Articles 8, Labour Party, NNPC differ on merger plan, data found on page 42, and that's all on the Punch newspaper.
On First News newspaper, Kunkaso is boasting, I will win 2027 presidential election. NAFDAC probes prophet Fufeyin miracle water. Cleric denies using agency's name to mislead public. 48 victims to Niger tanker explosion giving mass burial. Wike signs memorandum of understanding with Chinese firms for Abuja lighting and water project. We are not barren, Betsy Obaseki fires back at Oshemole. VAT fuel price hike will worsen hardship. Atiku slams Tinubu's punitive policies. The big story on the paper, exodus in the rank, 196 soldiers file for retirement as concerns grow in military. Army refused mass exit rumors, reaffirms soldiers' right to voluntary departure. APC chieftain to Tinubu act fast, suffering in Nigeria becoming unbearable. Group urges APC Okpebolo to explain promise to provide Edo with insecurity. And we have a picture where we can see Vice President Kashim Shettima and IGP Kayode Betokun exchange pleasantries at the regular officers' course 6 commissioning at Nigeria Police Academy, Wudil, Kano State. This happened during the weekend, and that's all the news on First News newspaper.
The Nation newspaper, resident doctors to lose 7 days pay to strike. No work, no payroll stay. Detail found on page 4. 342 billion naira recovered from Nasil, the MFB debtors. Apex Bank deploys GS1. You can read detail of that on page 4. Wike Chinese firms sign memorandum of understanding to boost power and water in FCT. How to deepen CNG penetration by operators, detail found in the paper as well. Nigerian Chinese firms sign $1 billion iron ore to steel project pact. Investors take federal government $500 million bond to oversubscription with a rider expert project 100% intake. Final announcement to beneficiaries this week. As well, we see what APC would discuss at NEC meeting by the party. We have the picture story of the fourth aide that died in Niger tanker fire as double multiple crash killed one in Lagos State. PDP knocks Kwankwaso for referring to party as dead. And the last story, NBA seek probe of lawyers dead. Detail found on page 2. And that's all on the Nation newspaper.
On Blueprint newspaper, Blueprint staff member John Oba later rests in Urusu Okoko. Details can be found on page 7. Legacy promo UBA rewards 30 lucky customers in August draw. On sports, AFCON upbeat Super Eagles land in Rwanda. The big story on the paper, Black Sunday, 51 killed in Niger, Lagos tanker inferno, 48 get mass burial, over 50 cows perish. Bago expresses shock, directs NSEMA's immediate intervention. NAFDAC probes Pastor Jeremiah's miracle water and soap. Eurobond woman conceals cocaine and operates in sanitary pads. NDLEA destroys 100,000 kg of cannabis in Ekiti, arrests 3 others in Kaduna and Jigawa. Still on the paper, traditional rulers storm Badagry market to force "I am not barren," Obaseki's wife replied. First Bank Nigerian Holdings sells 100% stake in the FBN Quest, and that's all the news on Blueprint newspaper.
Right, let's take a look at another paper, which is the Daily Independent newspaper. Hopefully, this should be the last paper we'll take, where we have syrup gives Tinubu ultimatum to reverse petrol price hike. You can find detail of that in the paper. Kwankwaso is inconsequential in Nigerian national politics, coming from the PDP. When we have First Bank holding dispute amidst crucial First Bank recapitalization plan, we are exploring peace options, stakeholders group assure. APC 9 years worse than PDP 16 years, coming from the ex-PDP national vice chairman. Niger government mourns as multiple accident claim 48 persons. And then we have a man drowns in Jigawa River, detail found on page 6. How lack of cargo aircraft retards industry growth by operators. You can find that on page 6. President Temborn re-elected in the landslide in gas-rich Algeria, detail found on page 6. ICPC rallies 36 states AGS stakeholders against corruption. ICPC rallies 36 AGs. Then we have stakeholders against corruption. You can find that on page 29. VAT fuel price hike, Brazilian insinual that may consume Nigerians, coming from Atiku, says increases destined to deepen cost of living crisis. The last story, I'm not barren, Obaseki's wife replies Oshomade. You can read that on page 6. And that's all on Daily Independent, and also how far we can go on the program this morning. Thank you to our viewers, our supporters, and to the entire production crew. Until we come again tomorrow, please do have a wonderful Monday ahead.